Being 7 p.m., called the May 8th, 2019 Board of Trustees meeting, the Lisle Library District to order. Roll call, please.
Marjorie Bartelli, absent. Jay Fisher.
Here.
Richard Flint.
Here.
Thomas Hummel.
Here.
Liz Sullivan.
Here.
Emily Swistek.
Here.
Laurie Wang.
Here.
A quorum being present, we'll move on to item 2 on the agenda, which is the opportunity for visitors to speak. It is board policy to allow those in attendance to address the board for up to 5 minutes on any topic that they wish. Do any of the visitors present wish to address the board? Sir?
President Fisher, thank you for the opportunity to address the board this evening. First of all, I'd like to thank you and your 2 other colleagues for whom this will be the last board meeting for your service to the community as trustees of this library. The agenda indicates that, as in previous years, the board will be voting on special resolutions to honor each outgoing trustee. I hope the board votes unanimously on each resolution to recognize the devotion and service to the library that each of you has shown over the years. However, in the unlikely event that someone may abstain, vote present, or vote against one of those resolutions, there's likely to be a special honor there too. As Franklin Roosevelt said once, "My friends judge me by the enemies I have made." In any case, I hope you and your colleagues aren't taking that leisurely victory lap quite yet, since this current board still has business to do. Votes on cleaning services, audit services, and the working budget for the 1920 fiscal year. I was surprised last month when the board voted to postpone the vote on the working budget. Trustee Flint noted that it only made sense if the working budget might change between then and now, which it hasn't as far as I can tell. But I suppose this postponement might make sense if you and the rest of your colleagues needed the extra time to evaluate and analyze this budget. But I don't think that was why it was proposed. The same trustee who proposed the postponement also attempted, unsuccessfully, to postpone this vote until next month's meeting, when the new board would be seated. The next board will seat 3 new trustees. The previous election introduced 3 new trustees as well. As a result, only 1 trustee will have more than 2 years' experience on the board, and nearly half of them will have no experience on this board at all. I was curious how often there has been that much turnover during an election, so I looked through previous board rosters using the Internet Archive of the library website. Based on that information, it appears that prior to the past 2 elections, you'd have to go all the way back to 1999 to see even as many as 3 trustees change at once. So this will be a rare and significant transition for the library with a lot of leadership, knowledge, and experience departing. I hope your successor is able to walk the same difficult line of fair-mindedness and service to the library and its patrons that I've seen you walk over the last 2 years, and that the new board will be able to build productively on the groundwork and foundations that decades of their predecessors have laid down for them to serve Lisle and this library's patrons. In any case, regarding today's vote on the working budget, I hope that you and your colleagues approve the working budget. I thought the discussion last month was thorough, and I'm not sure what further delay would accomplish. If you and your colleagues choose not to approve this budget tonight, however, I hope that your discussion of either postponing or rejecting this budget will provide the public with clear and detailed reasons for why you're making this choice. Thank you again for this opportunity to address the board.
Thank you. Sir, anyone else wish to address the board? Sir? To speak into for the recording, you need to speak into the microphone. For the people watching at home.
I teach the St. Joseph Kids Art and Science Club here at the library. We meet twice a month. The class has begun in my condo 5 years ago. We began with 2 children, and in December of last year we met and had 23 children in attendance. So it's been quite a success. Not too many people have heard of us or know about us. I started the class by going door to door, walking the streets of Lisle and sticking our club flyer in mailboxes. And that was how we began getting children to attend the class, and we expanded from there. But we do have, we've been around quite a while. This is our 5th year, and we've had a lot of students who have aged out of the class. In fact, we probably have 15 to 20 children who have aged out in 5 years. So one dilemma we have is that we constantly would like to have more children come in to the classroom. I don't want to teach a class that has less than 10 children in attendance. And we have asked the library for several years to be allowed to put up our flyers in both the downstairs and the upstairs area to allow parents to actually know we're here. And we've been denied for 4 years for reasons we cannot fathom. And we are asking the board to look into this matter because I think it's crucial for the education of these children in the sciences. And we cover a very wide gamut: botany, biology, astronomy, chemistry, paleontology, and entomology, and a lot of other things besides doing botanical artwork. So we would like to have some help from the board. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
May I have a couple of those flyers? I think I can get it posted at the Park District.
Oh, okay.
I go there like 6 times a week. Thank you. 3 is fine.
Oh, okay.
Sir?
Good evening. My name is Eric Monti. I've been a resident of Lisle for the past 14 years, and I am a current patron of the library. And tonight I just wanted to come here and thank the trustees. My wife is a trustee. I know she works a lot hard with all you guys, with all everything that you're doing. And it's a volunteer position that a lot of people don't understand how much time it really takes. And everyone here is doing it for the better of not just the library, but the community as a whole. And I personally just want to thank all you, everyone, all the trustees, because I definitely do think you're making the library better and you're making Lisle better, which makes all of us better. So thank you very much. I appreciate your service.
Thank you.
That's long.
Hi, Eileen Soliday, 40-plus year resident of Lisle. I came here tonight to welcome the new trustees to the board of the Lisle Library District, as well as to say thank you to the trustees who are leaving the board for their service to the community. But first I must give my sincere condolences to the staff of the Lisle Library District for the loss of their co-worker, Natalie Carl. She was a beautiful woman, a conscientious employee in technical services, and a friend to all who knew her. May her family be comforted to know that she was so well loved here at the library. Rest in peace, Natalie. You have earned your wings. To go on, I'd like to tell you that one of the first things we did when my family moved to Lisle in 1978, eons ago, was to get a library card. It was a quaint library at the time where the floors creaked in the children's department. But we loved coming to the library, and not only has the library grown over the years, but it consistently improved to where it is now. Lisle Library has become a library that other libraries look up to. This didn't happen by chance. This happened because the staff of this library have always been exceptional, and the past trustees of the board have always supported the library's growth. One department that has always been near and dear to my heart is the Youth Services Department. Partly because that is where I first began my career at this library, and partly because how the programs they provided for my children helped to enrich their lives so they could become successful adults with a love for reading, learning, and libraries in general. I cannot stress to the new trustees enough that this library has grown and improved immensely over my 40-plus years in Lisle, especially the Youth Services Department. Will Savage and his staff have done so much to improve programs and enrichment to the children of Lisle that I am in awe of their accomplishments. Please remember this as you go on in your service to the library. I am a Lisle Library taxpayer too. I want the children of Lisle now to have the same and better opportunities that my children had in the past. We have staff here now who can accomplish this, and I wish them continued success. Over the years, I have worked in different departments, ending my years of service in administration. I can tell you that this library runs like a well-oiled machine. This has all to do with the dedicated staff who work here. To the new trustees, I can tell you that this should make your job easier. To the trustees who are leaving, I thank you for your service to the community. I would be remiss if I didn't give a special thank you to Trustee Richard Flint. I know firsthand that over all the years you have been on the board, Mr. Flint, you have always had the best interests of the Lisle Library District in mind. Not only that, but you were always kind and supportive to the staff of the Lisle Library District. I want you to know that your support has not gone unnoticed. The staff of this library will miss you. Thank you for this time.
Anyone else present wish to address the board?
Really can't follow that up. I get 5 minutes, I'm taking 4 minutes and 59 seconds. Tom Duffy, incoming trustee, and first of all, I do want to thank the board. I know I was one of the ones that recommended the 1 month delay so the new incoming trustees could take a look at the budget, and also the public, so we got more than a week to look at the budget. So I do appreciate that. I know that a little off what you guys have done in the past. And it took that month, and I definitely want to thank anyone that's been helpful in having me kind of understand the budget. And I'm not going to make any recommendation on delaying it or not, because my requests were met, and I definitely feel like this budget represents the hard work of the staff and an appropriate budget for what the next iteration of this board can do. One of the things talked about youth services. I like the fact that we're investing in the youth services more within the employees. That extra money that can go in there will be of a big help for increasing the access to our great programs and services that the fantastic staff put on. And I think that that is something that highlights an identified need. And then I'll flip it and say, again, thank you, trustees Fisher, Flint, and Rank. Man, it's to be an elected official, it takes a lot of time. You volunteer out of it, and you will, some people are going to be happy with you, some people are not. You go home each night and we're all friends, and I think that that is a service to your community should always be honored. And I hope to honor that by showing the same devotion that you guys have shown to this community. So thank you.
Okay. Anyone else present wish to address the board? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 3, which is the consent agenda. Do any of the trustees have any items they wish to pull from the consent agenda? Hearing none, then there is a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda 3A through 3D.
Is there a second?
Second.
There was a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Okay. Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Richard Flint.
Aye.
Thomas Hummel.
Aye.
Liz Sullivan.
Aye.
Emily Swistek.
Aye.
Lonnery Wang.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. The consent agenda is approved. Item 4 on the agenda is the director's report. Director Weinstein.
Okay. I too wanted to take a moment to express condolences to the family and friends of Natalie Carl, our co-worker here at the library. She passed away over the weekend, and the staff and I are still reeling from the news. Of course, Natalie worked here for 20 years, and though much of her work was in the background, our technical services department is behind the scenes. Her impact on library materials and how materials got into the hands of our patrons is felt, and that's important work. We will miss her immensely. We hope her family is doing as best as they can. I understand some of her family are out of state, and so they'll be connecting with me soon. So moving on, as you can see, it's been a very busy month with many meetings, and some months are like that. We've had some wonderful programs too. We celebrated National Library Week and our special relationship with the Lisle Women's Club on Saturday, April 13th. Family and friends gathered to remember and toast to some local leaders and library founders. And we must have had at least 50 people in the room. It was very lovely. I welcomed guests and paid tribute to 3 women, Barbara Roque, Marilyn Kowitzel, and Robin Spreetsma. I introduced the event attendees to the donations that were made in memory of Barbara Roque. We had 2 mission-style lamps, a signed children's art print, and 15 hardcover books. Those lamps are now in our atrium area on the adult floor, and the art print was hung upstairs in youth services, and the books are now circulating in our collection. A plaque was also presented that documents Barbara Roque's journey in establishing our library, and that is right behind me here next to our flag. So if you have a moment after the meeting, take a gander at that. Barbara Roque's daughter, Corinne Squares, and Nancy Wilson of the Lisle Women's Club also provided some commemorative comments. So it was a very lovely event. The Friends of the Library had their book and media sale this past week, and in preparation for the sale, I coordinated with Friends board members and volunteers to reorganize the storage area in the back. That's where the Friends materials are stored. The Friends installed some new shelving racks. They had bought some shelving racks and they installed them over that weekend, and now there's a better arrangement of the space in our storage area. President Fisher and I attended the intergovernmental meeting on April 11th, and my report mentions the topics that were discussed among the 5 other agencies who were present. I won't go through those, but you can read that in my report. Jack Hayes, Assistant Director McQuillan, and I toured the building and campus to better gauge our stormwater issues on the property, and we also discussed some imminent property matters, such as curb work. So Mr. Hayes recommended that we contract to correct some of the offset pipe issues we have on Front Street, as well as mitigate some of those curb flaws and sidewalk flaws across the campus, and also to replace our air handlers with a deadline of 2020. Another meeting was conducted on May 3rd, and we wanted to, FQC and his team evaluated our structural, mechanical, plumbing, and electrical components on the campus, and so we are now waiting for that report regarding that last visit. And then moving on to a new program we're looking at. As you know, every September the library celebrates Library Card Sign-Up Month, and we offer patrons discounts at numerous local businesses just by showing your library card. We call this program the I Love My Lisle Library Card Business and Nonprofit Partnership Program. It's a mouthful. Every year, patrons ask us why we can't do this more than just once a year. And the simple answer is it takes a lot of staff effort. It's coordinating with the businesses, keeping them engaged, and marketing them, that effort. And we've done this for 10 great years. It's been so popular. So this year we're exploring expanding the program by looking into an online reading incentive program that rewards library card holders and readers with discounts at businesses all year long. It's not unlike our summer reading incentive program. It's an app-based platform, and the platform connects with local businesses to afford those discounts. But the vendor, the online platform vendor, does the legwork for it. So it's in their hands to connect with the businesses. So we're excited to try and see if our patrons enjoy this new type of reading program that provides discounts. And our aim is to launch it this fall to coincide with the National Card Sign-Up Month. And this effort was brought to my attention by the Director of Circulation, Paul Hurt. Lastly, the library, there is a library technical assistant program at the College of DuPage, and that program requires that the student conduct a practicum or be a part of a practicum, and it must be completed to receive certification. It's an unpaid position, and service hours are spent in multiple departments in a library, so I've agreed to mentor and also host a practicum student here this fall. I'm working with the LTA coordinator at COD, and we're in the beginning phases of onboarding that student. I think it really offers a great way to introduce people interested in the library profession to librarianship, and it also provides valuable professional experience for any future public servant. Oh, and then lastly, we're still working on this, but most libraries offer automatic renewals for materials, and our leadership team has opted to flip that switch come this summer. This feature will allow patrons, is it 2 days? 2-day reminder that we will be renewing your items ahead of time or at that time, so a book would automatically renew for you. So this way a patron, it gives them a little bit more cushion to whether or not they want to return their materials, quote, on time, or it allows them to keep their materials for a longer period of time. There are more details to come. They will be on our website and in our newsletter. This has been a long request by our patrons, and so I'm looking forward to satisfying that request for our patrons, because a lot of our neighboring libraries already offer that feature. That's all I have.
Thank you. Are there questions or comments for the director?
Yeah, I'm excited about this app-based platform. I thought it's very interesting, and not only can use that, be able to have traceability, you get some good stats on how many people use it, what kind of business kind of, a lot of analytics in terms of, the web-based activity we probably can get some insights from. I think that's really good, and maybe lead to a lot of other opportunities in terms of driving to the Facebook or Twitter, whatever,
Sure.
for library activities as well. So I think it's really great. Good thoughts.
Okay. Have we participated in that library technical assistant program before?
We have.
So have you, or just previous
It's
administration?
not since I've been director,
Okay.
no.
With the exception of last September, for the past 4 or 5 years, I've given a lecture to the LTA program, and I hope to get back into that. The woman who was teaching the course retired, and so I hope to connect with the person who's now doing it and pick up on that.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments for the director? All right, then we'll move on to item 5 on the agenda, which is the assistant director's report. Assistant Director McQuillan.
Let's see. So the event team has been working on our summer read kickoff, and this will be on Saturday, June 1st from 11 to 3. And some of the activities that we've planned are some inflatable slide, some floor pianos, a photo booth, crafts, cupcake truck, and music during, and of course our sign-up day for the summer read. And the wrap-up event will be Saturday, July 27th from 11 to 2, and we're still working on some of the activities that are going to happen that day. As mentioned in the report, with the heavy rains that we had last week, our parking lot and our south detention trench back there started to fill with water. And the good news was that the Front Street detention area remained clear, so the cleanout that we did last summer seemed to work for that part. With the continuing rain on May 2nd, the detention area filled all the way in the south parking lot, and also the parking lot had quite a bit of water in it. The Public Works Department came and made their best effort to try to open up the sewer drain for the stormwater, but were not successful, and they were able to tell us that they thought there was mud in the pipe. So we have contacted Vichu Sewer, and they looked at the manholes yesterday, and they see 2 problem areas that they plan to flush out. One, of course, is in the south parking lot, and there's another at the Front Street area. And we're awaiting confirmation that that could be happening on Friday. As mentioned in the report, we had a small leak in the Youth Services Department, and Metal Master Company came out and they patched the roof over Youth Services. They found 2 holes in the roof, small ones, And they will return, weather permitting, as the roof is dry for a permanent repair. We've been without our parking lot lights due to a disintegration of the electrical conduit in the first pole outside. And the conduit that runs from the building to the pole has actually further disintegrated. So the electrician is working to arrange for equipment that will, it's called a bore, that will push the conduit underneath the parking area, driveway, and connect back to the pole. So that was, we're waiting that proposal. And just finally, the Lisle Woodridge Fire Department was here for their annual inspection, and they looked at the sprinkler heads, our emergency lights, which are also the red ones up there, and then the regular lights that come on, and the fire extinguishers. So those are the kind of inspections that they did.
I have a quick question. Has the parking lot ever flooded before, or is this a new problem?
It had filled with water, and that's why we had it cleaned out last year.
But was it just the front that we had cleaned out, or do we have the back cleaned out too?
We had both cleaned out. They both had water in them for an extended time last year.
October of 16.
Yes, but I mean, what led to the real cleanup last year, it did happen a couple times.
Okay.
Do we have a, excuse me, a time frame on the proposal to fix the lights in the parking lot? Do we have a rough idea?
The electrician was here today, and they looked at where they could set up the equipment. It's rather a large piece of equipment, so they're just getting their proposals together, because it's two companies that need to come together to make a proposal.
And getting back to the flooding, will we be able to get a solution that will prevent future problems? It sounds like we need like a big solution instead of little ones here.
Well, that's why we're working with Jack Hayes.
Okay.
The physical plant has been looking at that, and I know we'll probably talk a little bit more when we get to the physical plant committee.
Great, thank you.
Actually, I got one quick question. On the roof leak in youth services, was that like in a small concentrated area, or was it a larger leak?
No, it was
small.
It was very small.
Okay.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments for the Assistant Director? All right, seeing none, thank you, Beth. Item 6 on the agenda is committee reports. 6A is Finance, Treasurer Wang.
Finance did not meet, no report today.
Any questions in terms of the financials for the treasurer? All right, then 6B, Personnel Policy, Chairman Flint.
Nothing to report?
Oh,
I'm sorry.
sure.
I don't flip pages fast enough.
Okay.
I was just wondering, and I don't know if this is, it's on the treasurer's report, page 10.
Okay.
And I don't know if this is necessarily, it's on the treasurer's report, so I don't know whose question it is. I've asked a couple of times before about the working cash fund and how we go about, I think you've told me, and I think this is Tatiana or Beth, you've told the board that other libraries have eliminated that fund, and that you made you told me that you would find out how we would go about eliminating the fund and moving that $400,000, because we can't spend it today. That we would move it into corporate so we'd have $400,000 to spend. And I think I was told that twice at 2 board meetings, so I'm kind of thinking, you know, if we have $400,000, we should be moving it to a place we can spend it. So I'm wondering what was the follow-up after that commitment?
The commitment?
Well, the plan to eliminate the working cash fund, what is the status and the plan for that?
Well, the plan, the board would have to initiate either an ordinance or a resolution according to our attorney, though that ordinance or resolution should happen before the end of a fiscal year. And then those funds would be moved into the corporate fund.
So before the end of the fiscal year means we'd have to do it at the June meeting. Okay, so what's the appropriate procedure? Do we direct you, Tatiana, to draft that up for us so we can vote on it? Because, I mean, if we only have one meeting to vote on it, it would be nice, you know, to give the taxpayers $400,000 to spend. So do we direct you, you know, I don't know how this goes. I've watched a lot of village board meetings, and they usually direct staff to draw up.
That would be a board direction, but not just one board member.
I know, we've had this discussion, and I know you've told me I can't do anything. So can somebody do something, because I'm obviously not capable of it. So who has the power here?
It's not about capability, it's about consensus.
Okay, I'll shut up now.
Well,
Did you
That'll
want
be
to
on the
come
next
down?
board agenda.
Go ahead. I think Laura was.
No.
No,
Oh,
go.
I don't know, I mean, I know there's no agenda item to do anything on that, so.
But you can direct without an agenda item. I looked it up.
We can discuss that issue.
Yeah,
but
yeah, I'm not
we
taking
cannot take
final
action
action,
on it.
so.
And that is, you know, it's also the responsibility of the new president and the director to come up with a June agenda as well.
Right.
So that is something that the new board at their first meeting can discuss, and then the president, when he or she is elected, then can speak with the director to get on the June agenda, if that is what the new board desires.
And I just also want to make a statement, you know, having working cash there in that category doesn't mean that the cash is sitting there is not getting invested, you know, into different investment vehicles. So there's a, you know, cash balance, how we categorize each of the fund. There's operation of this fund to make sure we generate proper revenue. So I just make sure that it doesn't mean that we categorize this 400,000 in there, we're not doing anything in terms of.
And I totally
Getting the
respect,
benefit.
and you've done tremendous work with our investments. However, on a personal basis, I would never agree to put my money in a place I cannot touch it, which is basically where it's at, unless somebody was going to give me a huge return. And I don't think we're making any different returns on this money than we are on money that's sitting in corporate. Correct me if I'm wrong.
We can spend out of working capital, we just need to, I mean, working cash, we just need to have a resolution to do that, or we would just kind
But
of.
you're still investing in the same type of funds.
Yes,
right?
it's
Yeah.
still a part of our investment portfolio, just how you categorize the funds, and you know, for the June agenda, they can be on the agenda for a resolution for the board to discuss. That's-
But as my colleague Richard Flint has said, why put off till tomorrow what you can do today?
I mean, it could be on the agenda in June. We could decide what we want to do, if we want to move it to the corporate fund, or we'd have to go to the corporate fund though.
No,
right?
you cannot do that in June. You have to have something developed to vote on in the June meeting, because it has to be done before the fiscal year.
No, I mean, but it could be on the agenda in June, and that would, as long as if it's on the agenda and the board votes for it, it would get in before the end of the fiscal year, which would end on June 30th. And I know in the past, going back a few years, I mean, I know, although it was a calendar year, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we were able to move additional funds to special reserve and IMRF funds, which is similar, but different.
So there's time to draft the ordinance, because it's got to be an ordinance
Yeah.
that's voted on.
Yeah, because as long as, was it 3 trustees? Minimum, either whoever the next president is, or 3 trustees or 2 trustees? 3? Put it on, you know, on the agenda, it will be on the agenda. So it probably will be on the agenda, so.
Thank you.
Okay, if you guys are fine delaying, the other reason to move it into the corporate is because we have a goal, a policy, that says we will maintain the corporate at, you know, no more than 6 to 8 months of our budgeted, or our annual budget. So I want all of our money in that corporate fund so that we're not sitting on extra money that's not held under that policy. But if it's not important to the board, I wouldn't run my own finances that way. I won't say anymore.
Item 6C, Physical Plant Committee.
All right, Beth just touched on a number of issues that were also discussed at the last physical plant meeting. We also had we discussed the HVAC project in the administrative office, and I believe we're going with Monaco for about who we currently use for our service, and I believe it's gonna be for $7,900 is that project?
Very close.
Yeah.
In that arena.
Yeah, and then we also discussed the seal coating of the parking lot, which we do every other year. And that is with Miller, and that's who also we always have used in the past, and that'll be about $7,500. We will be updating or improving the east end restroom counters, and we'll be using Stevens Plumbing, is it? Stevens
Yes.
Plumbing? And we also use them currently. And that project will be around $20,000. We discussed about the landscaping and diseased trees. The director or the assistant director mentioned the annual fire safety check. We're working on the technology plan. And then the parking lot lighting we discussed at the last meeting as well. And then there was also an update on the sewer project and also the building project with FQS, which I believe the director and assistant director already mentioned. Are there any updates on any of those? Especially, I know we've talked about the flooding in the parking lot this past week. Did Jack Hayes come out and look at that? Or
He
anything?
did.
Yeah.
Beth met with him.
Yes, and he's been reviewing the video of the televising of the sewer lines, and he's actually talked with Viju Sewer also about their report and just a couple points.
And I think that they had mentioned that, the restrictor area is where we had the overflow. But they also found another issue on the other side of the parking lot. So there's two now areas where we thought there was only one.
Oh, so there's like
So
a newer problem.
It's an update, but it's not a
Good
fun update.
Yeah,
Monaco hopes to be doing their work next week, maybe Wednesday.
okay.
We'll be in touch the next 2 days on that. The counters in the bathroom, we're picking out the faucets.
Okay. And just to add on the counters, that's part of the strategic plan for a more inclusive or universal.
Accommodating.
Accommodating bathroom, yeah.
Speaking of the strategic plan, I hope some attention is given to the carpets, especially by the circulation desk. It's almost an OSHA violation.
Any other questions or comments for the Physical Plant Chairman?
Any other member or Emily?
You covered it all.
All right.
All right, then, hearing none. Item 6D, the Committee of the Whole for the Budget has completed its work, so I am now retiring that. We'll move on to item 7. We have unfinished business this month. A, which is the approval of the fiscal year 2019-2020 Lisle Library District working budget. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the fiscal year 2019-2020 Lisle Library District working budget.
There is a
Second.
motion and a second. Discussion?
Point of order,
Certainly.
shouldn't we have removed from the table, shouldn't we have voted to remove from the table that which we placed on the table? We placed the budget on the table,
Okay.
so I think we should have voted to take it off the table before we move to approve it.
To take it off of the unfinished business? Well, it was tabled to this month.
Right, I think we have to vote to take it off the table. I don't think it's automatic,
Okay.
but let it go.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the fiscal year 2019-20 working budget. Is there discussion on the motion?
I just
Am
want some clarification because I've seen lots of rumblings about on social media that are not what I'm understanding, and I just want to make sure that everyone present understands. I saw something that said that we have a larger spending budget but less revenue, and then that would mean that it is deficit spending, and that's not my understanding. Because we have the special reserve fund that we're planning on spending out of and working on things under our strategic plan. And so I just would like some clarification about that, just because I've seen kind of rumblings about it.
Okay, well, with the operating budget, we aren't working with special reserve funds. I think you meant operating
Oh,
reserve
yes,
funds.
operating,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
sorry.
So we have a healthy operating reserve fund, and so we have lowered our tax levy for the past 2 years in a row. And because we have a healthy operating reserve fund, our budget, some of that spending will come from the operating reserves.
So it's not like it's spending more.
We're not taking out loans or anything.
Right, thank you.
Right, but it's still, I mean, technically, correct me if I'm wrong, does anybody know the definition of deficit spending? Isn't it going into your reserves?
Yes,
you're-
but it's the policy of the board that the operating fund should have 6 to
Yeah, 6
8
to 8
months.
months, yeah.
And it has more than that, so we are using money from the operating reserves to get down to where the board wants the reserves to be. So technically, yes, we are spending more than we are taking in this upcoming year in revenues, but that is to get the reserves to where it needs to be.
Oh, I agree with everything you say. I just
Mhm.
want to make sure that everybody understands the definition of the word. I have a question. Are the auditor's journal entries reflected in the 17-18 actuals? Because I know, we keep saying that the auditor makes journal entries. So I'm wondering, when we look at the budget page, I'm hoping that we're comparing. I know we can't compare them because, we use a cash basis, so I know we can't logically compare them to the projected end of year 18-19, but I'm hoping that we took the adjusted entries and went back to 17-18 and corrected those.
Ginger, can you speak to that?
Yes, we did.
Okay, so what we're looking at on the budget page, and then we have fiscal year 17-18, those are including the adjustments. Okay, great. And I have another couple of questions. I'm noticing, like, if we look at the circulation report, which I think is in the packet on page, I don't know, I think it's around 48 or 49.
Correct.
And I guess this is why I really liked the additional time to do further analysis. The attendee per program is actually decreasing. And I think that's shown on page 49. So as we're spending more money, we're becoming less efficient. So in 17-18, we had 14.4 attendees per program. And now that we're spending more money and we're running more programs, we have 9.6 attendees per program. And the budget increases the amount of money that we're going to put into programs, which to me makes no sense. I would really like to see us figure out, why do we have fewer attendees per program? Why are we spending money less efficiently? Why are we being less effective? And this requested budget actually just throws more money at it. To me, that makes no sense.
Well, I think I'd like to address that.
Wait a minute, I'm speaking here. Okay, and then the second area on that page, if we look at attendees per program, and that's where we look at the statistics I just gave were staff facilitated programs. If we jump down to performer, speaker, author programs, we're actually being more efficient in our spending, such that in year 17, 18, we get about, or we were getting about 24 people per program, and then we jumped up to almost 33 people per program. So it's like, the more programs we have staff run, the less efficient we're becoming. The more programs we have outsiders run, the more effective we're becoming. But then if we look at total
I'm looking at
attendance,
the same thing as you. Would it?
I'm on page 49. These are
So am I.
calculations I did.
Okay, so
These are calculations I
I'm
did.
not understanding where you're.
I believe what she's saying is the total number of, look, on the green line, it says total patrons served per programming went up from 4,301 to 14,917, but the total number of programs increased by 400. So if you look at
Okay.
person per program.
Okay.
Right. So we're spending more, and we're spending more to get fewer and fewer people. And then if you look at that bottom line that you just mentioned, Jay, and you look at the total attendees per program, we've gone from 14.7 down to 10.7. So to me, and again, that's a calculation, so it's not stated there. It's taking numbers and doing the data analysis to say, where are we being cost effective and efficient? And it's definitely not in programs. We're becoming less cost effective and less
So
efficient.
you did like an average.
No.
I mean, like, you counted all the programs and you're doing it by money. But, I mean, part of, and on this point is that
Could I
throughout the
finish,
year.
please?
Absolutely.
Okay, so in sum, what I'm saying is, the budget asks for more money towards programs. If you can't figure out what you're doing wrong, throwing more money at it does not solve the problem. It exasperates the problem. So that is concerning to me. And we're actually, our literacy room use is down, our meeting room space is down, our patrons entering the building is down. The new library cards on page 48 is down. The monthly borrowers is down. The registered users is down. Computer usage is down. Checkouts is down. I'm really concerned because we're asking our taxpayers to pay more for services, and every area on these 2 pages, almost every area, the non-electronic areas are all down. As a taxpayer, as the constituents that I talk to, this does not represent where they want to see the library go. So I think I don't think that this is a budget I can support. I don't think it's a budget that my constituents can support. Not only my constituents, I mean the average constituents, people I don't even know send me emails with what they're upset with. So that's all I'm going to say.
Tatiana?
Well, there was a lot of points made. I think that our building stifles some of the progress we would like to see in some of our numbers. I also, in points regarding the number of programs we do equating to attendance, I mean, your equation is your equation, but you can see that the number of patrons we've served by programming has increased on this page. And a lot of it is due to trial and error. Every year, our staff put in hours of planning and trying to attempt different ways to reach our patrons with different kinds of programs. So that effort can sometimes show ups and downs throughout the year. So we've had 2 years under my leadership to try to hone some great programming efforts, and I think that some of our public comment mentions see that, appreciate that, and we will continue to do so. Every year, costs increase as well. I mean, there's such a thing called as inflation, and some things do raise in price. I don't think we've exorbitantly increased our program budget. I think we've increased it because we've heard and seen demand for certain types of programs.
Richard?
2 points for your digestion. Number one person's efficiency is another person's essential program, or essential feature. So, we can't just throw around the word efficiency as in, we should be more efficient and cut this, or we should be more efficient and do away with that, without having a deep dialogue about what is essential as opposed to what's efficient. And the second point I was hoping to make, the reason, to say that this and that is a problem is really to sort of state the conclusion without, sort of back up into the conclusion without justifying it. Just because program attendance goes down a little bit doesn't mean it's a problem, because we're not a corporation. We're not doing this to make money on these programs. If a program has 14 attendees versus 10 attendees, the people I talk to think that's totally okay and not at all a problem. Because we're not a corporation. We're a unit of government that uses its money to serve the population, whether the programs are very popular or just a little bit popular. So I'm not seeing the problem.
Tom?
Yeah, I just make a couple comments. I think one is when we kind of talk about, when we structure the budget, we always thought that let's take a look at what the 5 areas we think our strategic plan called out for. Is that reflected in the budget? So first we talk about we want to improve user experience. One of the part about user experience is the programs. And as Tatiana mentioned, youth programs has been, everybody loved it. It was kind of one of our more like a crown jewel kind of staff facilitated. So that's kind of reason why there was a reflected increase in the programming. There was we thought would be probably biased toward the youth program just because its popularity and its feedback, right? And also, bottom line, also look at the cost of facilitating staff facilitated program. We have these staff is on payroll already, right? So what we get just some materials and stuff, and I don't think it's very costly. So by doing some trial and error, so what will work, what patrons respond to, I think that's a right approach. I don't think having a little bit extra money in programs would make or break the budget. And number 2, I agree with can't be universally just say your total attendees by number program, that's how the metrics will be, because every program might be different. We cater a variety of diverse population here. Some are young, some of the old, some of the ethnic diverse. So everybody's interest is different, right? So I don't think just by pure metrics to say if this is going to work or not. Second piece is one of our key strategic focus is about technology investment. We increase our technology investment reflecting our budget, which also supported by the statistic here. And I think those are kind of, I think I would think about where our budget is reasonable now. Let's take a look at, does that reflect the strategic plan where we want to spend our money? But I also agree to some like what some of the comments that Liz made about there were just so many, I think it's hard to draw some conclusion because we just have so many statistics here. So we just don't know what really kind of the key 3 or 4 things kind of drive how we gauge our operational efficiency, how we gauge the user experience. So I've been kind of talking about this the last 3-4 years I'm on the board. It's nice to have this, but if we don't act upon it or don't know what's the most meaningful metrics, then might as well just take this page out of the deck, right? But I know that Tatiana has been making some progress on put some benchmarking data and see how well we perform against benchmark. I think we should continue for next year. So that's my perspective.
So kind of a question, comment then for staff, because the staff programs have obviously gone up 49%, and the participation is basically flat. Have you guys analyzed what is it? Is there a reason for it? Is it like technology programs? It's more one-on-one. Is that built into that? Or?
It's built in. We've done more one-on-ones, but again, it's trial and error. We're trying new things every month generally to see where there's interest.
And then is the staff look at like how the programs are attended or how the feedback is and?
They do, and some of the, I think most of the programs do have evaluation forms, and there's a great feedback, and all the trustees have access to the trustee comment cards, and some of those are reflected within those.
All right.
Generally about the budget, we still have that motion on the table, I think.
I have a couple of more points.
Sure. When Richard is done,
Let it go.
Trustee Sullivan?
I'd like to see the contingency line item of $25,000 be reduced. That seems to be rather high. The fiscal year 1920 end of year projection looks to be about 7,500. You know, I'm not sure why we're bumping it back up to 25,000 when we reduced it to 7,500. I don't know what the 7,500 was spent on. I'm not sure why we need that much. Another question that I have, and I think I brought this up, this is the fourth time. We have software that would tell us when the computers, and this is in the computer lab for the patrons, when the sessions logins are done simultaneously. Because logins have decreased by almost 4% year over year, and I know that the budget includes replacing all the PCs. And so it's concerning to me that we're budgeting to replace all the PCs when we may not need them all. So, you know, I would prefer to use the software that we already have to show when we have simultaneous users. Maybe we never need them all at the same time, and rather than just say replace all the PCs, I'd rather use the software that we have. So I prefer to do an analysis and move the budget money into the following year. And I don't see a lot of efficiencies built into the budget. And I have several items that I've looked at other libraries. Other libraries have instituted where patrons pick up their own items on hold, and that would be very easy to do. They've also installed more checkout machines near the circulation desk or right on the circulation desk so that patrons waiting in line would see, okay, there's an option to wait in line, or here's a computer right here where I could check out. And I'm using both libraries and doctors' offices even do that now. I would think by now we would built in efficiencies such as combining circulation and reference desks and maybe reutilize that space to create a teen area because usage on both desks is going down, as evidenced on page 49. And we talked about increasing volunteer hours, and then I'd like to see us create a plan, and I was hoping to see it in this budget, that allows residents to choose to receive the newsletter electronically. And then lastly, and this is probably my strongest objection, is that the board received a presentation on RFID and how RFID technology would make us so much more productive. And we had that presentation probably, I'm going to guess, 6 months to a year ago. And I don't see it funded in the budget anywhere. And since that was the single most significant thing that we've been presented by staff as how we could improve productivity, I'm just shocked that it's not in the budget, or at least maybe it is and I just missed it. So that's why I will be voting no on the budget.
Well, I believe we're not planning on replacing all of the PCs. It's a rolling schedule, correct?
It is,
We
and
replace portions of them, and there's not the RFID part of the special reserve plan for the next fiscal year as well?
Yes.
Yep.
And a lot of RFID depends on building configuration. So we are in the crux of that conversation.
I I'm going to support the budget, but there's two items in it that I wish had been different. I still believe that we should not be cutting our legal expense, our legal line by $5,000. We should just keep it flat, because you never, unlike the other things we pay for, databases or journals or those sorts of things, there's not a, you can't go by the previous year's legal bills. You never know what big problem's going to come that you hadn't seen. That's number one. Number two, I really wish we had found some way to restore our investment in the staff. Last year, we cut staff compensation by quite a bit, mainly, I think, by cutting time and a half for Sunday. Also, I wish we could have restored that. And I wish we could also incentivize staff to maximize their continuing education, credits and conferences and stuff like that. It's not enough to say the staff aren't using it. If they see there's not much money for it, then you've signaled to them not to ask for it. So we should be signaling for them to ask for it. But maybe the subsequent board will correct that next year.
I do have a question. So if the motion does not pass here today, would it automatically just roll over to next month agenda? Or there's a motion to like table this? How does that work?
It wouldn't be automatic.
No.
So then if this doesn't pass, this motion doesn't pass, then someone have to make another motion to table it to the following month.
I'm sure Tati will not Tatiana's attention.
Yeah.
She will tell whoever's in charge of the budget, you need to put this on the budget, on the agenda.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't pass again, then you'll have to call a special meeting to pass it.
Any further comments on the motion? I think this is a good, decent budget, continuing the right sizing that has been going on, and I will be supporting it as well. Seeing no other discussion, roll call, please.
Thomas Hummel.
Aye.
Liz Sullivan.
Nay.
And Liz Shostak.
Aye.
Lori Wang.
Aye.
Richard Flint.
Aye.
Jay Fisher.
Aye. Motion passes 5-1. Budget for, the working budget for fiscal year 1920 is approved. Move on to item 8, which is new business. Item 8A is resolution 1901, which I will read and move to get on the table. Resolution 1901, Lisle Library District, May 8, 2019. Be it resolved that the following is true and accurate. Whereas Richard Flint has served on the Board of Trustees for the Lisle Library District since August 2002. And whereas Richard Flint chaired the LLD Technology Committee from 2004 to 2007. And whereas Richard Flint has served as Board President of the Lisle Library District from 2007 to 2017. And whereas Richard Flint twice chaired the LLD Personnel and Policy Committee. And whereas Richard Flint co-chaired the LLD Facility Steering Committee from 2012 to 2016. And whereas Richard Flint co-chaired the LLD Information Stewardship Committee from 2013 to 2016. And whereas Richard Flint has served on the LLD Financial Goals Committee and LLD Strategic Planning Committees. And whereas Richard Flint has benefited the LLD Board of Trustees with his parliamentary insight. And whereas Richard Flint has reliably represented the Lisle Library District, its vision, mission, and values. And whereas Richard Flint has served as a model for new trustees. And whereas Richard Flint has enriched our meetings with his leadership, wisdom, and advocacy, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Lisle Library District that Richard Flint be commended for his exemplary service to the district. This resolution been adopted by the Board of Trustees this 8th day of May, 2019. Anyone wish to second the resolution?
I second the resolution.
Thank you. Any comments on the motion? Yes?
I was vice president too.
Okay. And whereas he also served as vice president, you can add it to the resolution. Thank you, Richard. All right. Roll call, guys.
Liz Sullivan.
Aye.
And Liz Shostak.
Aye.
Lori Wang.
Aye.
Richard Flint.
Come on.
You're on the list.
Aye.
Thomas Humble.
Aye.
Jay
Aye. Unanimous approval for
Thank you.
Resolution 1801.
Should I read 8B?
I'd like to read 8B.
Okay.
I'd like to read it and move it. Be it resolved that the following is true and accurate. Whereas Jay Fisher has served in the Board of Trustees for the Lisle Library District since May 2015, and whereas Jay Fisher has served as Board President of the Lisle Library District 17 to 19, and whereas Jay Fisher served on the Lisle Library District Physical Plant Committee 15 to 16, and whereas Jay Fisher has served on the Library Personnel and Policy Committee 16 to 17, and whereas Jay Fisher served on the LLD Finance Committee 18 to 19, and whereas Jay Fisher served on the LLD Strategic Planning Committee 18 to 19, and whereas Jay Fisher has benefited the Library Board of Trustees with his attention to policy detail, and whereas Jay Fisher has reliably represented the Library District, its vision, mission, and values, and whereas Jay Fisher has served as a model for new trustees, and whereas Jay Fisher has elevated our meetings with his insight, decorum, and advocacy, therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Lisle Library District that Jay Fisher be commended for his exemplary service to the district, the resolution being adopted by the Board of Trustees this 8th day of May, 2019. I've read it and I move it.
I'll second.
All right, there is a motion and second. Any discussion? All right.
Melissa Stack.
Aye.
Mallory Wayne.
Aye.
Richard Flint.
Aye.
Thomas Humble.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 8C.
Don't I get to vote?
Oh, you didn't get to vote?
Aye.
Sorry. He looked at me like he was done. My apologies.
Yes.
Sorry. Item 8C, Resolution 1903. I will read and move. Be it resolved that the following is true and accurate. Whereas Longry Wang has served on the Board of Trustees for the Lisle Library District since August 2015. And whereas Longry Wang has served as LLD Treasurer from 2017 to 2019. And whereas Longry Wang chaired the LLD Finance Committee from 2017 to 2019. And whereas Longry Wang has served on the LLD Physical Plant Committee 16 to 17 and Strategic Planning Committee 2018-2019, and whereas Longry Wang has benefited the LLD Board of Trustees with her financial acumen, and whereas Longry Wang has reliably represented the Lisle Library District, its vision, mission, and values, and whereas Longry Wang has served as a model for new trustees, and whereas Longry Wang has enhanced our meetings with her expertise, stewardship, and intelligence, therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Lisle Library District that Longry Wang be commended for her exemplary service to the district. This resolution has been adopted by the Board of Trustees this 8th day of May.
I second.
There's a motion and second. Any discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
Longry, I know that you had a very difficult job. I know that nobody wanted to serve on the Finance Committee because it's so difficult. And you took all of our suggestions to heart. You figured out the best way to implement them when appropriate. And I think you made it, you left the board and the reporting just so much better for you having been the treasurer and on the board. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
You
Thanks.
will be missed.
Thank you for the kind
Yeah,
words.
it'll definitely be missed. Definitely be missed.
Roll call, please.
Longry Wayne.
Aye.
Richard Flint.
Aye.
Thomas Humble.
Aye.
Liz Sullivan.
Aye.
And Melissa Stack.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Item 8D under new business is a cleaning service proposal. Action required. We need the board approval. There's an RFP for cleaning services for the LLD. We had a recommendation from staff in your packet.
I move to follow Beth's recommendation. I read it, and I read all the, there's a lot of detail in it.
Would you like some language? So that's such as I move to approve the cleaning service agreement with EcoClean Maintenance for 1 year with the option to renew for the amount of $22,344. Would you like to make that motion?
So moved.
All right. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion?
Just good job. Very thorough.
Did our current vendor bid on this?
Yes.
We're comfortable with this?
Yes.
Okay.
Seeing no further discussion on the motion, roll call, please.
Richard Flint.
Aye.
Thomas Hummel.
Aye.
Liz Sullivan.
Aye.
Emily Sosek.
Aye.
Lonnie Wright.
Aye.
Jay Fisher.
Aye. By a vote of 6-0, the motion is passed, and we have a new, speaking, I had my last meeting, and the cleaning service for Eco Choices. Eco Choice has been approved. Item 8E is the audit service proposal. I'll make the motion to approve the audit service agreement with Lauterbach and Almond for 1 year with the option to renew for the amount of $8,400.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I think,
Go ahead, Laurie.
I think it's a good choice. Definitely from pricing and value-added services they can provide. My only question is they listed out the audit, like estimate hours. My question is, because they haven't really done the work, so a lot of times the estimate versus actual might be different. Is this a ceiling, or how does that work?
Ginger, she made that comment too.
Yeah, probably a ceiling.
Yeah.
Okay, so if the audit work beyond what the estimate hours will be, then we'll have pay on the hourly basis beyond the contractual.
Ginger thought that it was a bit exorbitant, so we thought for sure it was.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions or comments on the motion?
The only question I have for staff, I know the first vendor was, I know they offered like free telephone consultations throughout the year, which I believe with our current auditor.
There was an added cost.
Yeah.
It wasn't for phone, it was for an additional
Okay,
meeting.
Okay.
Mhm.
And would the vendor that's recommended kind of provide this like free, throughout the year? Okay.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Thomas Hummel.
Aye.
Liz Sullivan.
Aye.
Emily Sosek.
Aye.
Lonnie Wright.
Aye.
And
Aye.
Richard Flint.
Motion passes by a vote of 5-0, and audit service proposal is approved. Item 8F is the approval for closing library for staff development day. Action required. We need board approval to close the library on Friday, August 16th, 2019 for the staff development.
I move that the board approve closing the library on Friday, August 16th, 2019 for staff development day.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There was a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion?
Can you give us, Tatiana, just a brief rundown of the agenda on that day?
Well, we have not solidified any agenda yet, but what we do on the staff development day is we close the library for the entire day. All the staff is mandated to attend. We perform emergency drills, tornado fire. This year we're looking at another CPR training. We did this, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, so we're looking at that. We had diversity training last year. We had, help me out here, we had some team building exercises. We also had our sexual harassment training, so those are the types of activities that will be happening on that day.
Could I just chime in that diversity training is never one and done?
Of course.
So I think I hope that you include diversity training in this year's agenda and the next however many years.
For the 2 years I've been director, we've had diversity and inclusion training, and we intend to.
For that matter, I hope the board has some too. I don't know that the board has ever had in-person diversity training.
Thank you. Any further discussion or comments on the motion? Yeah. We'll let Chris be busy tonight and take a roll.
Liz Sullivan.
Aye.
Emily Sosek.
Aye.
Lonnie Wright.
Aye.
Richard Flint.
Aye.
Thomas Hummel.
Aye.
Motion passes. The board has approved closing the library on Friday, August 16th for staff development day. Item 8G is to set the director's salary. We need to go to item 9, which is the executive session.
I move that we go into executive session 5 ILCS 120/2C1, the appointment employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a motion and a second. So if the motion is approved, we will go into closed session, and then we will come out of closed session and deal with item 8G. So, do we normally do this by a roll call vote? You think I would remember? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We are in executive session. We are back in session, open session at 9:23 p.m. Having completed our business in executive session. Item left with one item under 8G, set director's salary for fiscal year 2019-20, action required.
I move that we award Tatiana Weinstein a raise of 3.5% to $115,755.59.
I second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Emily Swistay.
Aye.
Lonnie Wang.
Aye.
Richard Flint.
Aye.
Thomas Hummel.
Aye.
Liz Sullivan.
Aye. I'm sorry, I voted.
No, you.
The motion passes
Second.
the director's salary for fiscal year.
Will you accept it?
Of course.
Yeah.
I'm honored to. Thank you.
Thank you. It's set. We have done item 9. Item 10 is opportunity for trustee comments. Trustee Bartelli is not with us. He had a family emergency. I will not use up my 5 minutes, but I just want to thank my fellow board members for their work and their diligence, both the current board members as well as the prior board members, John and Maureen and Colleen, as well as the staff. It's been an honor and a pleasure to work with a great staff here at the library. It's the helpfulness and the friendliness and the attentiveness of the staff that makes this such a great community treasure. So thank you all. Trustee Flint.
May I go last, please?
You may go last. Trustee Hummel.
I just want to say thank you to the outgoing board members and welcome to the incoming board members. So, and thanks everybody for their service.
Trustee Sullivan.
I'll ditto Tom. Thank you, everybody, and welcome, everybody.
You forgot one thing?
Okay. So for the special board meeting, how is that going to work in 2 weeks? Is the current board got to be here, or is it just the new trustees?
Just the new trustee?
I won't be a trustee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, you'll be gone.
Okay. All right, just double checking how that was going to work.
Are you done, Trustee Sullivan?
Yes,
All
thank
right.
you.
Trustee Swistay.
I just wanted to thank trustees Fisher, Flint, and Wang for all their help over the last 2 years and their guidance and their insight into everything. I really appreciate it. Coming in as a new trustee is a very eye-opening experience, and I appreciate the time that was spent. Richard, especially, I really appreciate the time that you spent with me doing my new trustee training.
It was a pleasure.
And all of that, and it really helped me to know what I was getting myself into. So thank you.
Oh, I didn't tell you all.
Trustee Wang.
All right, so it has been a great experience serving on the Lisle Library Board of Trustee, and I was pleased that I was able to contribute to the future vision of the library and also suggestions on operational efficiency. The experience helped me understand and also appreciate kind of the regulatory and operational differences between like the government entity versus the private sector, and try to contribute when it's appropriate and value added. And I feel honored to serve with the fellow trustees, and especially on the leadership of past President Flint and President Fisher. You guys taught me a lot in terms of how the operation of government entities. That was a great experience. And I also would like to thank the staff, especially Tatiana and Ginger, who is not here right now, for their support to make my life easier as a treasurer for the last 2 years. And I'm confident the new board will continue to make Lisle Library better and stronger every day. So thank you.
Thank you. And last but certainly not least, Trustee Flint.
In all these days of high endeavor, great advocates we need, because it now falls down to us, the patron's right to read. Parking lots so small and crowded, our carpets worn and smudged, our aisles so thin, our doors they creak, so please don't slash the budget. Leaving patrons stranded, then of this there nothing worse is. I hope you find a way and soon engage a shuttle service. Take your open meetings course, do the best you can. Explaining the secret $20 million plan. Rely not overly on email, surely they will hack it. Attend some training once a year and always read your packet. Pay no mind to email chains because you can ignore them. But please don't skip the monthly board since meetings need a quorum. Financial health, please keep in mind, our patrons for to serve. To plan investment, you must check invert or flat yield curve. 4 years is nothing, races by. You'll find there's much to learn. But as I wave my hat goodbye, I move that we adjourn.
There is a motion, would you like to second?
I second.
There is a motion and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned, thank you.